Secondly, you are creating an imaginary world that will influence the relationships you have and that will cause you to lose respect or to compare your relationships. The imaginary one, which is like a quantum reality where everything is perfect and you are the superhero that fucks any girl up to the stand that she believes you are God. While in your real relationship it's not so easy. That's a real thing. You've gotta really work on it to get to the point of the expression being wow. So that's a different story, but in your imaginary one, you are God, you're a sex god. Try and make that imaginary reality real in your physical reality in space and time. It is not possible. It takes time. You see, in your imaginary reality there is no time because you are moving time. Remember, you are God in it. You are moving the space, you're moving even the positions. And you can do the strangest things with bodies in an imaginary reality. They can be on top, on bottom. You can do all the strangest things because there is no consequence. But there is a consequence. The consequence you pay for. The consequence to it is what happens to the energy. Where did the energy come from? Where is it going? What is the outflow? And have a look, we're in a oneness reality that consists of energy that exchange all the time. Let's take it to a practical example. There is water in this world. There's a quantifiable amount of water. That water has been, whatever water you're drinking has been through another human being. You're not drinking fresh water, you are drinking water that's already been through a human or a plant or an animal and that has been through a process, either through the earth or a chemical process, been purified so it is drinkable again. But it's not original water you're drinking. None of the energy within a oneness reality is original energy. You came into this reality of energy and you found it this way, and when you leave, have a look. When you leave this reality, you don't take your energy with you, it stays here because if you were taking it with you, there would have been something different in this reality. But when you leave, the only thing different in this reality is you're no longer here. Just your name is on a cross. Here lies the late so-and-so. And you've been lying all your life and you're late. You died. You were not on time to understand how this works. They say, okay, but this doesn't make sense. There must be a creator. There must be a God. Why would God do this to us? Have you ever noticed God anywhere but in your own mind? In your imaginary reality? In the real world of space and time where we work with real energy, you do not see God. We call several things acts of God. When nature comes and causes tsunami. But that is not an act of God. It is Earth having a shake-up, maybe possibly be pissed off with the humans and just doing a little cleanup. How else do you wash a virus from your body? You wash it, and Earth is the body. So, Earth wash it and clean up and says, if love is to exist, you can say that Earth represents love, because Earth allow the human as the most abusive possible form of life to exist. So, you can really say thank you to Earth. The fact that you still exist, I wonder if you would have been able to take the abuse. If you were in the shoes of Earth, would you have taken the abuse? Have a look in your own life. Are you able to take even a little bit of abuse? You can't, and then you will absolutely go apes hit and says, no, I'm not going to take this. I'm standing up. Stop. 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 But you'll allow it in somebody else's life. You'll allow it in the life and the existence of the Earth. Oil that comes from the Earth is the blood of Earth that we are using for our energy. We are vampiring that. We are mostly water, just like Earth is water. We all come from Earth. But we've created an imaginary idea about ourselves in a thing called the mind. And that mind, have a look, most of your thoughts never manifest in the physical reality. Just like you're masturbating, most of the women you masturbate about, or most the guys you masturbate about, you will never meet. They're imaginary from a certain perspective. But you've seen them somewhere, you take their energy from them, you've seen it in a picture. Sometimes you conjure up your own anime being that you're having sex with. But, the anime being exists as an energetic expression of the person that draw the picture. So, it becomes quite complex if you want to have an experience, which is called masturbation, within an energetic expression. How do you do it without a relationship? You do it with yourself as an expression, where you do not involve another being, where you do not take their energy so that you could have some satisfaction. Because the moment you take something, there is another law within the law of attraction, the law of balance. Positive, negative will always move in exchange. In that movement of exchange, it discharge, that means, as the positive move towards the negative, it's giving the energy to the negative and the negative becomes the positive. And then the positive moves to the negative and it gives its energy to the negative because that's how energy flow. The positive gets to the negative and so it moves to and fro, to and fro. It moves the energy. We don't see that because we are that energy moving. We are experiencing the energy as it moves. So we are either positive or negative. We're not considering that we have become this very energy that is moving as the mind and we start to forget about our real reality. The physical reality exists here and we don't look after it anymore because we're trying to satisfy our imaginary reality, where we have a positive and a negative. In real reality, you have what? You do labor, you eat food, it creates energy in your physical body, the waste products is released through shitting, it goes back into the earth, it is recycled back into the plants and again becomes food. I mean, we always eat our own shit, we just don't want to look at it that way. Every piece of food you ever eat that comes from the earth is coming from manure, either dog shit, animal shit, human shit, or shit from the trees that is decomposing, that is regenerated through the sun. And photosynthesis is an example into food that we eat that turns into energy, physical energy with which we do things. Once that energy is finished, we need to eat again. Have a look what happens in the mind. It also need a feeding ground. What is fascinating? That we have created ourselves as beings that exist not in the physical, but exist as personalities, as ideas within our mind of ourselves. We judge our physicality, we want to look a certain way, and we go into all kinds of regimes of how we should be looking, because we have this perfect picture of what we want to be, instead of accepting who we are and working with what we are. Then, we create our own world, not according to what the physical requires, but according to what we mentally require. We call that mental stimulus, we call that intelligence, we call them all kinds of wonderful things, but what has that brought us in this physical reality? We have a world in peril, we have beings being abused sexually, which starts off your sexual abuse that starts off with imaginary abuse, becomes an obsession, and it's all done in secret, and that secret law of attraction attract people to each other that ends up in abuse situations. Your child may end up in an abuse situation because you masturbated and imagined, and now, your sins are being visited upon the sins of the fathers are being visited upon their children up to the 7th generation. What does that mean? They have to discharge the energetic responsibility you have created while you were abusing another being, using energy. So now your child gets abused by an unknown stranger, a bad man. But you love masturbation and you love to imagine an unknown man knocking on the front door, walking in your house and taking you violently and taking you to a massive orgasmic experience. And you imagine that all the time and you masturbate about it. It's so wonderful. Now it happens to your child and you're mad at the world. Come on. Some self-honesty here. Who created this? Oh, great creator. Let's go back to a fascinating point. I mean, you can't remember anything before your birth. And you can access some of the information using hypnosis. But if you go and study people that has done this quite meticulously, like Newton, you'll notice that the information is very limited and as he found out very specifically, which is why his work is unusually. He found out that it depends on what question you ask to determine what information or answer you'll get. So that means quite a lot. Very few people consider the question to be asked and is even willing to consider the answer you'll get to the question you're asking. So, if you're not willing to ask the question, I mean, it's in all religions, isn't it? Ask and you shall receive. So, if you really want to know, you have to ask. Now, what do you know? You know you are in a oneness reality and a reality of energy where you came into it and you can't remember exactly where you come from. You at some stage during your small years suddenly became able to speak, to remember things, to walk and to do things, but you can't remember exactly when. Then, after that, you created yourself through the education system that was provided. And according to that, you have decided on your place in society. You've desired it and you've constructed it. Then you've worked within the system, making sure that you survive because that is what you've been taught. You've been taught by mom and dad, for instance, you must have a degree. You must have a good job so that you can always have money. And the only way mom and dad could justify all the starving in the world was to say, that's God's will. Now, what was so nice about the whole God thing? Because remember, when you were born, there was no God in your world. The God only became part of your world when you were taught about the God. You were trained to believe in it. That's the nice thing about having multicultural existences in the oneness reality. I mean, you can, if you are self-honest, consider that if you were born into a Muslim reality, it would be Allah. If you're in a Christian reality, you will have God. But God and Allah will not be there in the beginning. It will only be there as the words that your parents are speaking, but not there in fact. One would like to believe it to be there, but what is there in fact that you can say self-honestly? There is life in fact, as that life force that is equal in all beings. Have a look. Whether it's a dog that's being born, there is a life force. A seed that is born into a tree, there is a life force. A human being, there is a life force. That is, we're all equal within that. We all use the same substance through which we express as life, which is from the earth, the dust of the earth. But look at the fascinating thing. The moment you die, the dust of the earth returns to the earth. Where do you go? The question would be, are you real? You don't know. You are going to find out once you are no longer in the form you are in here on earth. The same with animals, and it doesn't matter what you believe. Whatever you believe, whoever you are as a personality, all of that you have been taught, it is not real. It is not life, it is personality, it is name, it is culture, it is I am a lawyer, I am this. It is the great I am, because you have been taught I am this, I am this. That I am is not God. That I am is mom and dad's teachings to you of I am. Say I am John, I am Dan, I am. That is the great I am that is being superimposed as God. How do we superimpose the I am that I am? Is quite fascinating because it says that I am within the greater I am, which is apparently God. No. That is all our I ams that we believe in as free choice together, our world system, that is our God, as the great I am. Quite a mess if you look at our money system. Quite a mess if you look at how many are starving and how people are abusing each other in this reality as energy, as the I am. That I am is all our laws we have accepted, all the ways we have accepted each other to exist. Which we unquestioningly do because I mean as long as you allow me to masturbate and rape as many people as possible energetically, I will allow you to do the same. Let us just agree we have free choice to do this, then we are okay. I mean we don't see it happen because I mean it is energy. We can't see energy and that is what is no nice about energy. I mean energy is like a secret thing, you can't see it. So what we do in our imaginary world, nobody can see what we do with this energy that nobody can see. That is here. I mean it is here, shows with his hands around himself and the room as an indication of experiencing the presence of energy. You can feel it, you can feel its presence because presence is energy. But you can't see the presence. But let's all agree to have free choice, let's all agree that we have free will, because we decide what the great I am must do, we have created it after all as our world system, as our consciousness, as our conscious. With that we have put in a nice dose of beauty, and a fantastic dose of love. So as long as we have love, we can hope that everybody else will understand it and feel our love and then we will be uplifted. I mean the fact that they don't have food to eat. That's not my problem, that is God's problem. I mean sorry the world system, the great I am's problem. You must listen to the great I am and follow the rules, you must follow the system. But the system is unequal. It cannot be equal because the design never made provision for equality. The design made provision for control. The design made provision for just some to be the elite and the rest to be the workers. Because those in the elite don't really want to do the work. They want a nice physical experience, but they don't want to actually do anything that is going to get that experience. So therefore they get the rest of the world to do it for them. I mean that is business, isn't it? Wouldn't you do the same? I mean the principle of free choice will allow you to do that. You can manipulate as you wish in this world because as long as free choice exists, as long as inequality is seen as equality, as long as it is possible to hide behind the point, the fact that you are equal to that education means that's all you can ever be. So let's keep you at that point, you do the work, I'll pay you, you do all the stuff. We have created the system that feed off each other where some are living like gods on earth. Even in this current economic crisis in this world, there are those that live in ways you cannot begin to imagine. There are those that have money and then most that don't, most that are living on the breadline. That means they just have enough money to make sure that their children get into the system. And there is food on the table. So their children can continue in the accepted tradition of serving the great I am, the world system. that is taken to, or attempted to be taken into the next stage. A few problem obviously. All that had to happen over time within the evolution of love was to create another way to trap everyone. Like you now have the love cycle within the new age that has become a wonderful money-making machine. Everybody jumps on the bandwagon and defend it. Why? To make money. How do we stop this nonsense? We have investigated this extensively. We found one particular way it is possible for us to actually stop this nonsense. A new money system. A money system where life is valued. I mean, when you are born, you immediately have your life supply of money with which you can do exchanges and support you within the world system. Will it mean we have to change our morality? Certainly. Does it mean that some people are not going to want to actually create food? Certainly, but I mean, if you are not willing to feed yourself or create food for yourself, eventually you are going to starve, and then that will get you moving. So there is going to be problems within the suggested system of equality, but not problems as big as we have now, and we can consider actually evolving, because at the moment we are not evolving, we are devolving. We can consider building a system where everyone is supported equally, where everyone is actually receiving an equal education, where our vocabulary is equal so that when we talk to each other we can understand each other. We don't have to fight for supremacy, because the system is designed for a win-slash-lose situation. But if everyone is on a win-slash-win situation, it's professed, like in the 7 Habits and The Secret, a win-slash-win solution. Where is the practical win-slash-win solution? There is no practical win-slash-win solution as long as there is no equal money for all. Not in this world system as it exists, not possible, because the source of what is here take the human away and there is no human. So who is the one that must make this decision to change the world system? It is the human. Common sense practically applied with self-honesty will show one the points that is required to change the world system. Will there be pain? Yes, for some of the rich they will actually have to do something to get something. They will no longer be able to manipulate to get everything. Yes, there will be a difference for the poor, because suddenly they will have something they never had, so they might overdo it in the beginning. I mean, if you can suddenly have access to what you could never have, initially you overindulge a little bit. But soon with the sickness of overindulgence you get to a point of equilibrium. Within this all we have to consider the following interesting point. One must consider that this must have a definitive effect eventually. Is that when you die, what is certain? You are no longer here in this reality and you no longer have access to this reality. Everything that you have been in this reality no longer exists, because if it did exist when you were born you would have remembered it. But when you are born you remember nothing. There is that which you could call an afterlife. We have found such a place, but it is disturbing in its nature because what is left of a human after death is rather limited. I would advise you to consider that there is a consequence for every single thought you have. This is in all religions. There is a consequence for every deed. There is a consequence for every word, and there is a consequence for everything you don't do, and there is a consequence for everything you accept and allow in this world. That consequence is that what you allow, you become. So if you exist in separation from other beings that is coming from the same source of life, you diminish, equal to the amount of separation to what you are existing in, so that at death only your diminished part will pass over and you will have to come back to this reality to find the part you have left behind. To consider all life, which is in everything that exists in this reality equally, is a common sense suggestion. You can equate it scientifically, you can equate it mathematically, you can equate it in every known way. As long as you stay out of your imaginary world where there is some fucker called God or something called divinity. There is no such divinity. You are actually creating this world yourself, instantaneously as who you are as the physical part of you. That determine.